Hi, my name's Davey Griffith, and I am making this video to help anybody that's in a relationship or in a marriage and they might have reached a point where they're struggling to communicate with each other in an effective way, especially when two people really care about each other and love each other a lot and are having trouble, expressing that or listening. And that's where this book comes in. It's called Gifts from the Heart. It's by Randy Fujishin, and it's 10 ways to build more loving relationships. And I'm going to read the first chapter and upload it to YouTube so that anybody who wants to listen to this on their drive or listen to this with someone you love, you can do that. The first chapter is called Ch.1, Giving in Relationships. I read this book as part of a communication class at Cabrillo Community College, and I loved it. And I actually put into practice a lot of the stuff that it talks about. So let's start it off. This is the preface, and it starts with a quote by Martin Buber. There are no gifted or ungifted. There are only those who give and those who withhold. It starts, deep in our hearts, we all desire relationships that are loving, healthy, and meaningful. We want relationships that nurture our spirit, encourage our growth, and even make us laugh in the quiet of the night. We yearn for this, yet many times this is not our experience. Kathy has been dating Paul for 7 months. They seem to enjoy each other's company, but she's frustrated with his inability or unwillingness to share his feelings. Kathy wishes she could tell Paul about her frustration or get him to open up, but she doesn't know how. Joanne had been best friends with Marcy since their college days 15 years ago. They were like sisters, but 6 months ago they had an argument and haven't spoken since. Joanne would like to break the ice and talk about what happened, but she feels Marcy should call first. Joanne wishes to soften, to forgive, but she doesn't know how. Tim, a single 32-year-old man, receives a letter from his mother saying that she's coming to visit for 3 days. Tim is immediately paralyzed with dread, knowing how his controlling mother will drive him crazy. Tim wants to be kinder and more loving to his mom and to communicate his boundaries, but he doesn't know how. Do any of these situations sound familiar to you? Perhaps it's not an issue of disclosing feelings, communicating forgiveness, or stating boundaries. Maybe you don't know how to listen effectively, communicate acceptance, or ask questions. Or perhaps you have difficulty complimenting, resolving conflict with, or encouraging growth in others. Because no one is born with the communication skills that bring us closer to those we love, they must be learned. As a relationship communications instructor for 30 years and a marriage and family therapist for 10 years, I have had the privilege of helping men and women just like us learn, practice, and improve 10 fundamental communication skills necessary for any long-term relationship. I encourage my students and clients to view each skill as a gift they can share rather than simply as a behavior they can implement. This perspective empowers them to participate more fully in their relationships by giving these gifts of communication instead of wanting to receive what the other person might offer. These gifts, whether intended for a romantic partner, a family member, or a friend, can greatly enhance and strengthen any relationship you want to improve. The communication gifts and underlying concepts presented in this book do not represent any one particular theoretical orientation or belief. Instead, they reflect a broad range of skills and ideas collected during my years as a teacher and counselor. My experiences as a husband and father have also greatly influenced and guided my journey to become a giver of gifts. That's good stuff. It is my hope that you will read this book with an open mind, a willingness to try new things, and a desire to change. It is also my wish that you will become a giver of gifts, gifts that will empower you to connect with those you love, gifts that will ultimately enable you to experience relationships that nurture your spirit, encourage your growth, and even make you laugh in the quiet of the night. Gifts from the heart. That's right. Chapter 1. Giving in Relationships. It starts with a quote from Mother Teresa: "You cannot love without giving." That's right. There are sacred places we carry in our hearts forever. They become a part of our interior landscape, rich reminders of who we are and what we are about. Just as surely as they etch their memories of time and place upon our souls, we leave the echoes of our whispers within their borders. I carry such a place in my heart. The beach was small and secluded, located at the end of a dirt road somewhere south of Kona, Hawaii. From its half-moon shore, the sea and the sky reached out to the horizon in soft blues and emerald greens. My wife and I sat on the warm sand, feeling the magic of this beach for the first time. It was the second day of our honeymoon. On that day, I noticed a couple at the other end of the beach who arrived in the early afternoon. I watched them in the distance as they held hands, talked in whispers, and seemed to enjoy each other's company. Before they left, they strolled over and said hello to us. To my surprise, they were much older than I had thought. Both were in their 70s. As they talked with us, we learned that they had been married for over 50 years and had raised 4 children. I asked the husband for his secret to such a long-lasting relationship. Without hesitation, he replied, "I learned to be a giver and not a taker." "You see," said Henry, "when we were first married, I thought Alice would provide a good home for me. She would give me companionship and love. Plus, she was the best-looking woman in Kilauea, Kona. All I could think about was what Alice could give me. Well, after 50 years of marriage," he concluded, "I've learned to be a giver and not a taker." To be a giver and not a taker. Those words have followed me since that afternoon on the Half Moon Beach many years ago. I believe that this shift from self to other, from receiver to giver, is the fundamental attitude we need to adopt to develop, nurture, and improve our relationships with those people we love, whether they are a romantic partner, a family member, or a friend. All loving relationships require giving. An individual can give countless gifts, both large and small, to another person in a lifetime. Entire industries are based on this fact. We spend billions of dollars each year on gifts for our loved ones, hoping to please and satisfy them. Yet how quickly the newness of our gifts fades and the inadequacies and frustrations of our relationships resurface. Sooner or later, we realize that the most significant gifts we can give are found not in shops, but in our hearts. These are the gifts of love. No loving relationship can exist without gifts such as accepting others, communicating for connection, listening for understanding, asking questions, flowing with conflict, forgiving, enlarging others, showing you care, and encouraging growth in others. These gifts help you develop any connection into a more lasting, loving relationship. But what is a relationship? In order to answer this question, we'll explore the 3 levels of relationships, the 3 stages of relationship development, and the 5 principles of healthy relationships. Levels of relationships. Not all relationships are the same. They vary in depth, duration, and function. Marianne Williamson, author of Return to Love, suggests 3 levels of relationships, which I find helpful in understanding our connections with other people. The 3 levels are the casual encounter, the sustained relationship, and the lifelong relationship. The casual encounter. The first level of relationships is the casual encounter. Saying hello to a stranger on the street, smiling at someone in the elevator, and exchanging pleasantries with a bank teller are examples of the casual encounter. There is no real depth or commitment at this level of relationship, but our casual encounters let us practice our interpersonal communication skills. They help us improve our public personalities. Whatever weaknesses we have at this level are magnified at the other 2 levels. If we are grouchy here, it will be more difficult to be loving with people at the other 2 levels. Level 2, the sustained relationship. In the second level, 2 people are in a fairly intense relationship for a period of time, 3 to 60 months, and then terminate the relationship for a variety of reasons. These individuals can be coworkers, neighbors, friends, lovers, even husband and wife. But eventually the relationship ends and the 2 go their separate ways. The experiences and learning that both encounter at the sustained relationship can be significantly important and leave a lasting imprint on their minds and souls. The lifelong relationship. Lifelong relationships are relatively few during our journey on this earth, but from them we learn our most valuable lessons. The people with whom we are in a lifetime relationships are not necessarily those we like or enjoy. They are in our lives to teach us our most important lessons, to forgive, to endure, to learn our limits, and to love. Often these individuals provide us with a lifetime of love, joy, and peace. Yet even lifelong relationships come at a price. That price is to learn how to accept other human beings, their shortcomings and weaknesses, as well as their strengths. Just as there are different levels of relationships, there are also different stages of development within each level, especially in sustained and lifelong relationships. Stages of relationship development. Ruth, one of my dearest friends, has been married for more than 55 years. I once asked her to what she attributed her long marriage to Bob. She smiled and calmly said, "The knowledge that some decades are harder than others." Some decades are harder than others? Decades? I had never before heard marriage or relationship put in those terms. Each level of relationship goes through changes or stages of development. There are numerous models of relationship development. Some are complex, resembling a flow chart for a multi-level corporation, and others are much simpler in design. For our purposes, I have chosen the simplest model I know: sparkle, conflict, and resolution. Just about every relationship model includes some variation of these three stages. Interesting stages. Stage 1, sparkle. The sparkle stage is when the relationship begins and everything is going well. This includes the euphoria of a first romance, the optimism of a new friendship, or the long-sought arrival of a first child. Everything sparkles with newness, freshness, and possibility. Time seems to fly. Each meeting is anticipated with longing and excitement, and nothing seems to go wrong. Little or no conflict exists in the relationship. Everyone puts a best foot forward, and things couldn't be better. Stage 2, conflict. The inevitable conflict stage is when differences of opinions, feelings, wants, or behaviors surface in the relationship. This is a critical stage because the way people confront or deal with conflict will determine the quality of the relationship. The conflict stage is not a bad thing. Rather, it can be an invitation to a deeper, more authentic relationship. Conflict in the relationship indicates that the individuals are beginning to assert their individuality, their truer selves. How they deal with conflict will determine the quality of the relationship. Many individuals abandon relationships at this stage, opting for the eternal sparkle of one shallow relationship after another, never really investing in more costly requirements that deeper relationships demand. Stage 3, resolution. The resolution stage represents the outcome or solution to the conflict that the individuals have reached. If conflict is cooperatively addressed, there is a good chance the individuals will discover common ground, solutions will emerge, and the relationship will grow. Not all conflicts can be resolved, and those that cannot often lead to the termination of the relationship. But those conflicts that are successfully managed and negotiated are the source of greater relationship strength and satisfaction. All relationships require the successful negotiation of conflict to remain vital and healthy. My dog. The circular nature of the relationship model. No relationship follows these three stages exactly as described. Some relationships emphasize one stage over another, whereas other relationships might begin with conflict and move to the sparkle stage. In other words, this relationship model has a circular nature. Unlike a linear model, which moves from stage 1 to 2 to 3 in a straight line and then ends, this model returns to the beginning time and time again. After one conflict has been resolved, we can return to the sparkle stage of the relationship, experience new conflicts, resolve them, and once again return to the sparkle stage. The challenge is in bringing new forms of sparkle to the relationship while creatively and cooperatively solving one thing after another during the journey together. Here are 5 relationship principles to keep in mind as you face this challenge. Isn't this good? I told you. Principles of a healthy relationship. No one approach or prescription guarantees a successful, satisfying relationship with another person. Whether the relationship is with a romantic partner, a family member, or a friend, the territory is always unique and each journey is new. No map exists that charts every curve, hill, and valley of a relationship. Yet over the years, I have observed and experienced some general principles of a healthy relationship. Relationships are not perfect. One of the most common myths about relationships is that everything must be perfect for the relationship to be good. Like in the movies, we want our relationships to be free of conflict and filled with love and passion. Yet most good relationships are far from perfect. Irritations, shortcomings, failures, disappointments always crop up. Although no relationship is perfect, I believe that 80% of a healthy relationship is working at any given time, and only 20% of the relationship is not. I call this my 80-20 rule. The problem is that we tend to focus our attention on the 20% that is not working and ignore all the wonderful aspects of a relationship that are working. We sabotage the relationship by choosing to focus on the negative. A healthier choice is to concentrate more of our attention on the 80%. Rather than focus on your loved one's snoring, leaving off the toothpaste cap, or occasional criticism, try to identify, compliment, and reward your loved one's loyalty, encouragement, financial responsibility, commitment, and other areas of the relationship that are working. In most relationships, you'll find that there is 80% that the person is wonderful and we love them tons. Relationships do not give you everything. No relationship will provide you with everything you need to be happy. There isn't one single relationship that can satisfy all your needs, desires, and longings. The mistake we often make is to believe that one individual or relationship will complete us, make us whole. That's a myth. Each one of us is far more complicated and has needs much more varied than we might initially think. We thrive and grow more fully with the interaction, support, and love of a variety of people during our lives. My wife and I have a wonderful relationship, but she also needs other people to make her life full and meaningful. Our two sons, Tyler and Jared, give Vicky the opportunity to experience motherhood. Her father and mother provide parental support and her personal recollections that go back to before the crib. Her sisters Joanne and Sandy are her best friends. Wanda, Susan, and Janie are special friends with whom she laughs, shares, and cries. No one relationship can give you everything. You may need many healthy relationships to express and share all the diverse parts of yourself. Relationships will die if not nurtured. Every relationship is like a living entity, like a plant or a tree. Each relationship has to be watered, pruned, and nurtured with loving care, or it will die. The grandfather who peers out his window in hopes of seeing your car in the driveway, the friend wishing for a reply to her letter, text, or email, and the cousin waiting for your promised trip to the fishing hole are all like parched, brittle trees waiting for you to water them. Relationships cannot survive on their own. They require your participation, and they will die if not nurtured. Relationships are both pleasurable and painful. Each of our relationships is a journey into both heaven and hell. When we truly open our hearts to another person, we discover both pleasure and pain. As psychiatrist and author Elizabeth Kubler-Ross says, grief is the price we pay for loving. Although her observation describes the pain we experience with the loss of a loved one, it can also apply to the pain we feel when a loved one disappoints, frustrates, neglects, or misuses us during the course of the relationship. Pleasure and pain are two sides of the same coin. Ultimately, you don't get one without the other. My friend Jeanette's son was an ideal child, courteous, mindful, and optimistic, who brought her great joy in the first 13 years of his life. During the next 6 years, Scott caused Jeanette great pain with his rebelliousness, drug addiction, and petty criminal activities. Scott, now in his late 20s, is happily married, has a healthy daughter, and works in a job he enjoys. Scott is again a source of joy for his mom. Jeanette told me recently, Scott really stretched my heart. I've never known such happiness or misery, and he was the source of both. Scott. Relationships require flexibility. One certainty I can guarantee you about any relationship is this: relationships change. No healthy relationship remains the same forever because people change. We get older, more experienced. We learn new things about ourselves and life in general. Our comfort zones expand to encompass new territory, and things that used to frighten or intimidate us no longer pose the same threat. Because we have changed, the morning of a relationship is much different from the afternoon of the relationship. It changes still in the twilight of life because people change. Whether it is changing jobs, changing diapers, or changing opinions, each of us will continue to rethink, readjust, and reshape who we are. Flexibility will make your journey through relationships more enjoyable and successful. Your willingness and ability to bend and adjust are essential in providing your relationship with the room to grow and develop as it should. Without flexibility, you will suffocate and strangle the bond that holds you and your loved one together. As the ancient Chinese philosopher Lao Tzu reminded us in Tao Te Ching 2,500 years ago, a tree that is unbending is easily broken. The hard and the strong will fall. The soft and the weak will overcome. Yield to change and strive to remain flexible in your relationships with loved ones. The journey of giving. From the moment you entered this life, you began receiving from others. You received primarily from your family of origin, your primary parental and sibling group during the first 18 years of your life. But a constellation of others also participated to satisfy your physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual needs. These people might include your grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, friends, neighbors, babysitters, and doctors. Without their care, you could have died within days. In essence, they gave you life by their giving. After you have been loved, nurtured, and guided by these people during your childhood and adolescence, you develop the ability to live more independently of their support. With this independence comes the opportunity to be a source of love, nurture, and guidance to others. Instead of only receiving, you can begin to give, encourage, help, and love others. The turning point in many people's lives is the moment they begin this journey from being a receiver to being a giver. Not everyone embarks on this journey. Those who do choose varying degrees of giving, which can depend on the person they give to, the situation, and their own circumstances. Some people decide to give early in life, others wait until the end of their lives, and some never choose to give. The journey begins with your decision to become a person who gives rather than a person who only receives. Your decision to become a giver rather than a receiver will enable you to experience honest, healthy, and lasting relationships with those you love. For most of us, the decision to become a giver in our relationships is not a concept we are familiar with or in many cases even aware of. Let me give you an example. When I meet with a couple for premarital counseling, one of the first questions I ask each person is, what are 10 things your fiancé loves about you? The initial response from both men and women is usually, I don't know, or I've never really thought about it before. Sometimes individuals respond humorously or even defensively, but rarely can people list even 5 behaviors or qualities they possess. When I eventually pose this question, what are 10 things you love about your fiancé, they respond much more readily and can usually list a number of qualities and skills they recognize and appreciate in their partner. He really loves me, she makes me laugh, he's thoughtful, she's attractive, he's strong, and she is a loving person are common answers. When the same questions are posed to parents and children in family therapy, their responses are similar. Both parents and children usually can identify 1 or 2 attributes or skills they love about other family members, but have difficulty identifying their own. Perhaps this can be explained by a reluctance to brag or speak positively about themselves. But after having worked with hundreds of individuals in therapy and in relationship classes, I believe this inability to identify positive skills and qualities in ourselves can be attributed to our deeply embedded preoccupation with what others can give us. We are often blinded by our desire to receive rather than to give. The first step in improving relationships is the conscious decision to become someone who gives, someone who will focus on what he or she can provide the other person in a relationship rather than what he or she can get. This shift from self to other in relationships is the turning point in our lives, making the change from childhood to adulthood. As a symbol of your commitment to improve a relationship with a loved one, consider signing the following statement. I choose to focus 50% of my attention and 50% of my efforts on giving gifts from the heart to whoever's name you want, in our relationship. This process of giving involves specific communication behaviors I will learn, practice, and implement during the next 90 days in my efforts to improve our relationship. Your signature. Often in therapy and in my relationship classes, people react to this contract with reluctance, doubt, and even suspicion. But I ask each individual to sign the contract nonetheless. If an individual chooses not to sign the contract, I interpret that decision as an unwillingness to improve the relationship. Maybe that relationship is not worth the effort or energy. Maybe this is not the time for change in attitude or behavior. Whatever the reason, if the individual declines to sign the contract, I will still continue to work with him or her, but my expectations and demands are modified to honor and accommodate the individual's decision to stay where he or she is for now. If you choose not to sign the contract right now for whatever reason, that is okay. You can still benefit from the reading of the rest of this book because the gifts it contains might provide you with an entirely new and different way of regarding your relationships with others, as well as your relationship with yourself. The gifts in this book might also expand and deepen your ideas of what is required of all healthy relationships and how you can develop and maintain your relationships. Who knows, after reading this book, you might change your mind and become a giver of gifts in all your relationships. If the individual chooses to sign the contract, the process of giving gifts from the heart begins at that moment, and his or her relationship will begin to take a different path from that instant. If you agree to the giving statement and are willing to commit to a program of giving communication gifts to a loved one, congratulations. You have taken the most important step in improving your relationship with a loved one. You have decided to begin the journey of giving gifts from the heart, gifts that will connect you to those you love. Guidelines for giving. Any new process or approach needs some guidelines to keep us on track, to help us avoid pitfalls, and to ensure that we actually achieve what we set out to do. Here are 6 guidelines to keep in mind that will make your giving easier when giving the gifts presented in this book. Try softer. This is not a race or a contest. The purpose of giving is not to rack up points or dramatically change a relationship overnight. The goal is to give specific gifts of communication that will enable you to connect more deeply with those you love. Each gift will serve to establish open, supportive, and authentic communication with those individuals in your life who mean something to you. Just as your current relationship with these people took months and years to establish, your new attitude of giving communication gifts will take time to implement. The fruits of your giving may not be evident immediately, so remember to take it slow and easy. Rather than trying harder, try softer. Give different gifts. There is a tendency to regard communication as primarily verbal in nature. We often think in terms of what we say or don't say, so in our attempts to improve our relationships with others, we often focus on language. But there are many ways to communicate with those you love. There are many languages of love. Gary Chapman, in his book, The 5 Love Languages, identifies 5 primary ways to express and receive love: words of affirmation, quality time, physical gifts, acts of service, and physical touch. Words of affirmation are those things we share verbally with others: compliments, encouragement, and praise. Quality time is when we give loved ones our undivided attention. Physical gifts are those tangible expressions of love, such as flowers, handmade mementos, jewelry, or a book. Acts of service include running errands for someone, washing a car, making a meal, or babysitting. Physical touch includes behavior such as hugging, rubbing a back, or holding hands. Each of these 5 languages of love is a different way to express our affection, and we all have primary language that we appreciate and prefer more than the other 4. Chapman believes that if you express love to a loved one in a way that that person does not value or understand, he or she won't realize that you have expressed your love at all. In a sense, you are speaking a different love language than your loved one. You might be using the language of words when your loved one values and appreciates physical touch. There is no right or wrong, just different languages. So you need to recognize the language or languages that your loved one values to begin to express your affection in a way that the person appreciates. One gift at a time. We have a tendency to go to extremes when we begin a new project, discover a new hobby, or find a new friend. The same is true here. My clients and students, in their enthusiasm, tend to want to put all these gifts to use at one time. They will often overwhelm others with an avalanche of poorly executed new behaviors. Rather than learn to use one gift well, they try to share all of them at once, poorly. Try one gift for a week or two, even a month or two, before moving on to a new one. There's no rush. Each gift will demand its own special work or effort from you. Enjoy learning about and practicing each gift one at a time. Enjoy the results that each gift may bring to the relationship. Take it one at a time. Be gentle on yourself. The process of giving gifts from the heart does not require perfection. You need only to try each gift with the attitude of wanting to give something to someone you love. Whether you do it perfectly or just well enough is not important. It is the direction of your heart that will eventually determine the successes of each gift. Is your heart pointed in the direction of self, or is your heart pointed in the direction of another? Striving for perfection not only places more pressure on you to perform in some unrealistic way, but also will sabotage and undermine the way which your giving will be received. Be gentle on yourself. You don't have to be perfect, you just have to try. Take it seriously. While you apply these gifts with a light touch, not expecting perfection from yourself or from the recipient, your intentions should be very serious. The purpose for which you are giving from the heart is to improve your heart, to intentionally shift your frame of reference from self to other, from taker to giver. This shift might be the most important goal you will achieve in this lifetime. Wow. Beyond improved communication and deeper relationships with those you love, you may discover a part of you that is more loving, caring, and nurturing than you had previously known or experienced. You may find that you like, appreciate, and even enjoy yourself more than ever before. In the end, you want to come to terms with yourself before you die. You want to come to a place where you can accept the life you have lived without many regrets. To discover the truth that we only really take away that which we give is perhaps the most serious lesson we will ever learn. Life is about relationships, and this is serious business indeed. It's true. Be careful. When giving the gifts presented in this book, be careful. Don't try anything that makes you uncomfortable. You don't have to do anything you don't want. Perhaps in the future you might try those gifts in a different relationship or under different circumstances. Who knows? Just remember that you decide. Do not push yourself too much or too quickly. Be careful not to use these gifts to manipulate, coerce, or victimize others. Each gift possesses great potential to influence not only how others communicate with you, but also how they feel toward you. Be ethical in your application of these gifts. Consider the safety, feelings, and appropriate boundaries of others as you give these gifts. Also, you do not want to encourage any codependent behavior where you are doing all the giving in a relationship and receiving absolutely nothing in return. You don't want to paint yourself into a corner and reinforce a relationship where the recipient of your gifts wants only more and more of your effort without also giving to you. Limit or refuse giving these gifts to any person who is alcoholically or chemically dependent, is verbally or physically abusive to you or others, or desires more from the relationship than you are willing to give. Giving has its limits, and you need to be sensitive and aware of your feelings and intuitions. Give joyfully. Give with an attitude of joy, for the gifts you give are tangible and intangible acts of love that not only bless the receiver, but you, the giver, as well. Don't give from an attitude of obligation or duty. Smile, hum, and skip a step or two before you deliver one of these gifts to a loved one. Your joyful attitude alone is enough to change a relationship for the better. Be of good cheer. Give joyfully. Beginning the journey of giving. Something magical happens when one individual in a relationship changes. The other person in the relationship also changes. Not immediately, not dramatically, but over time, a change always occurs. No relationship remains the same when one person adopts a new attitude or new behavior. Giving gifts from the heart can promote relationships in which the same gifts will be returned to you. By deciding to give rather than to receive, you will change not only those you give to, you will experience changes in yourself as well. You'll see your romantic partner, family members, and friends through new eyes because you'll be looking to give rather than to receive. You'll be watching for opportunities to accept, connect, and listen to others. You'll be on the lookout for chances to encourage, touch, and forgive those you love. You'll experience the lightness and freedom that can come only from putting others first and yourself second. You'll discover an inner calmness and peace that you hadn't experienced when you were struggling to get what you thought you needed to be happy. You'll find that in giving, you will receive all that you need to experience more loving relationships. To prepare to give, this book will explore the importance of each gift, outline specific ways to communicate and share each gift, and suggest guidelines for implementing each gift. All of the gifts presented in this book will be fun and exciting to share with those you love, but each gift will demand from you a spirit of giving. Without your decision to become a giver in your relationship, the chances of connecting and deepening your current and future relationships are severely limited. It is only when you decide to give that you begin to experience lasting, loving relationships. Even a journey of 10,000 miles begins with one step. Your decision to give is the first step in the journey of giving gifts from the heart. I hope you will accept this invitation. And then there's like an activity thing that you do. So activity 1.1 is personal exploration. It says if you are undecided about giving gifts from the heart in a particular relationship, or perhaps in any relationship, you most likely have good reasons for your indecision or reluctance. You know best. But rather than tossing this book out the window or beginning the next chapter, you might want to explore the following questions. Your responses may help you gain some clarification and insight into your decision. Of which individual are you thinking when you consider giving gifts from the heart? Question 2, what are the benefits of your relationship with this person? Question 3, what specific gifts, such as accepting you, communicating for connection, listening to you, asking questions, flowing with conflict, forgiving you, enlarging you, showing he or she cares, and encouraging your growth, does he or she give you? Question 3 or 4, why don't you want to give gifts to him or her? Question 5, what do you think would happen if you decide to give him or her these gifts? Question 6, what do you think would happen if you decide not to give him or her these gifts? And question 7, how do you feel about your response to the previous question? And then activity 1.2 is practice giving, sharing your decision to give. If you have decided to focus some attention and effort into giving gifts from the heart, congratulations. Now that you have made the decision, you need to communicate it to your loved one. Take 5 to 10 minutes to meet with your loved one at a convenient time and in a location where you will not be disturbed. Tell your loved one that you have made a decision to give more to him or her. Ask your loved one the following questions. 1, how can I love you more? 2, what can I do to show you more respect? 3, what can I do to increase our intimacy? 4, what can I do to increase your feelings of security? 5, what can I do to encourage you more? The answers to these questions will provide you with a great deal of information about the specific things you can give your loved one. Whatever your loved one says, don't evaluate, defend, or attack. Just listen to his or her responses. Most likely, the answers your loved one gives to you can be satisfied by many of the gifts outlined in this book. And then activity 1.3, practice giving, the principles of relationships. Discuss the 5 principles of relationships outlined in this chapter with a loved one and ask him or her to comment on each one of the principles in regard to your relationship with him or her. What did you learn about your loved one's views on your relationship? What gifts might you give to this relationship? Were there any responses that surprised you? How did you feel about your loved one's comments? And that's the end of Gift 1. And after I read this, I was really interested in just kind of what the book was talking about, and I hope you were too. And I look forward to sharing chapter 2 with you.